Kenrick Rodney, age 35, a resident of New Orleans, was sentenced to 365 months imprisonment by U.S. District Court Judge Mary Lemon. Rodney was convicted in September of conspiracy to distribute and to possess with the intent to distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine hydrochloride and 280 grams or more of cocaine base and a quantity of heroin. The jury also found Rodney guilty of 2 counts of distribution of cocaine base.
Slide on me, pull up right on the side on me, collide on me, open up at 4-5 on me, leave me stinking in my car till my blood drying on me, no lie on me, think I'll choke the iron on me, so that let them hang, this a boss thing.
Who's to blame if a young man get his shirt stained, a shit bag or walk with a cane, cause couldn't talk with the slang. Boy, couldn't talk with my slang, couldn't talk with my slang.
Bloodlines can't be trained, gorillas can't be tamed. Bloodlines can't be trained, gorillas can't be tamed. Bloodlines can't be trained, gorillas can't be tamed.
In the year 2000, not only was it a new millennium, it was also a new era of players, hustlers, and steppers that had came on the scene. They came in with new styles and ways to do business. Their attitudes were, if you ain't with me, you against me. And they stood on all 10 toes carrying that mantra. This was the time of uncertainty in the game. There were a lot of old-timers in the streets who wanted to just make money and be merry. But the leaders of the new school wanted to let them old-timers know it was a new day and a new play. One set in particular, 3rd and GALVEZ, also known as 3NG, had starting putting Uptown in a chokehold. They were extorting other drug dealers and taking over streets outside their area. They even took on beef with one of New Orleans' most dangerous projects, the Calla. Just by standing up to the big bad wolf, made their names ring bells in the streets. People would get out of their way when they spotted them in the area. It was said it was better to go the other way if you saw any one of their gang coming your way, cause it had to be trouble. The only downside to the 3NG gangs was not all of them were hustlers. They were mostly an untamed group of youngsters with bad attitudes and the heart to eliminate you from off the earth. But in every gang, there's always a few that would be known as the hustlers. The ones who brung money to the table, someone to make sure the whole crew eat when things were plentiful and didn't starve when things were scarce. In this gangs, there was Kenrick Rodney, also known as Lil Man. Mostly laid back with a player's persona, Lil Man was known throughout the city as the head honcho of 3rd and GALVEZ street crew. He was always seen driving in his Corvette with the top down, riding through the city without a worry in the world. Cause he knew. He was a part one of the roughest gangs in the city, and no one would test him. But Kenrick had a problem he didn't know about. The feds had got word he was the head man in charge over the 3rd and GALVEZ crew. They heard he was person supplying the hood with all its work. And we all know when the feds gets a whiff of you, they will do whatever to take you down. The investigation revealed that Rodney was one of the top leaders of 3NG, a notoriously violent drug gang in New Orleans. 3NG refers to the area in New Orleans located at 3rd and GALVEZ Street, and to those who deal drugs there. Rodney was responsible for moving large quantities of cocaine and heroin throughout the city of New Orleans, and was a source for drugs for other high-level drug dealers who operated outside the area of 3NG. Rodney was the main supplier of drugs to the lower-level members of 3NG. Rodney has an extensive criminal history, among others, arrests for distribution of cocaine, illegal use of a weapon, and possession of a firearm during a narcotic crime. Rodney also has a prior federal conviction from the Eastern District of Texas for possession with the intent to distribute 5 grams or more of crack cocaine. Rodney and another individual were apprehended transporting a kilogram of cocaine, 15 grams of crack cocaine, and some marijuana in a secret compartment of a car from the Houston, Texas area. Around October 2006, a New Orleans drug gang gained a foothold in the Hoffman Triangle, a neighborhood in central New Orleans, known as 3NG. The drug gang adopted its name from the area in which it conducted its operations, the intersection of 3rd Street and South GALVEZ Street and the surrounding area. In October 2008, the Fed's DEA received information suggesting that a potential leader of the 3NG drug trafficking organization had been identified, Kenrick Rodney Lilman. Based on its initial investigation of Rodney, the DEA concluded that he was a key member of the organization. On April 8, 2009, the DEA arranged a chance encounter between Rodney and Danielle Hatfield, an informant who had spent time with Rodney in federal prison. During their conversation, Hatfield complained that his drug supplier was overcharging him, and Rodney offered Hatfield his cell phone number. April 20th, 2009, Hatfield called Rodney to arrange a drug purchase, and Rodney told Hatfield to meet him at a nearby park. Wearing DEA monitoring devices and carrying purchase money, Hatfield arrived at the park as instructed. Hatfield then entered Rodney's car, and Rodney drove around the block before parking. From there, an agent observed Rodney walk up a driveway, enter Ashed, and then emerge from the shed a few minutes later and return to the parked car. Rodney gave Hatfield approximately 2.5 ounces of crack cocaine, and Hatfield gave Rodney $1,600. The two parted ways. The two parted ways with Hatfield immediately meeting up with a DEA agent to turn over the drugs. A laboratory subsequently found the seized drugs to contain 60.8 grams of cocaine base. 3 days later, on April 23, 2009, Hatfield arranged a nearly identical transaction with Rodney. This time, Hatfield parked his car near the driveway that Rodney had used during their previous deal. At the same time, Rodney was seen milling around near the shed at the end of the driveway before walking to and entering Hatfield's vehicle. Rodney then gave Hatfield another bag of approximately 2.5 ounces of crack cocaine, and Hatfield gave Rodney $1,800. After discussing the possibility of a future $8,000, $9,000 transaction involving a quarter kilogram of cocaine, the two parted ways again. The crack cocaine was immediately turned over to a DEA agent and was subsequently determined by a laboratory to contain 62.7 grams of cocaine base. On April 15, 2010, Rodney was indicted for his role in the drug activities of 3NG. The 4-count indictment first alleged that Rodney conspired to distribute 5 kilograms or more of powder cocaine, 50 grams or more of cocaine base, and a quantity of heroin and marijuana. Counts 2 and 3 of the indictment charged Rodney with the distribution of 50 grams or more of crack cocaine for the April 20th, 2009 and April 23rd, 2009 Hatfield drug purchases. Count 4 alleged that Rodney distributed a quantity of powder cocaine on September 15th, 2009. In September 2011, Rodney was tried by a jury on the 4-count indictment. On a special verdict form permitting the jury to determine the quantity of cocaine involved, the jury found Rodney guilty. Affiliates of Rodney testified that 3NG was responsible for the distribution of a substantial amount of powder and crack cocaine, and that Rodney was 3NG's de facto leader. Testimony at trial established that Rodney personally supplied On Street dealer with 3 kilograms of powder cocaine and directed the delivery of a 4th kilogram to the same dealer. The jury also heard testimony that in early 2008, Rodney was seen counting out $80,000 in cash earned from dealing drugs, roughly the equivalent value of 4 kilograms of cocaine. Another associate of Rodney testified that Rodney directed the transport of kilogram quantities of cocaine from Houston to New Orleans. Still more testimony identified Rodney as the one who supervised 3NG's systematic manufacture and distribution of crack cocaine via a network of multiple street-level dealers. Despite the significant quantities of powder cocaine connected to Rodney, one of Rodney's associates testified that it was crack cocaine that 3NG was primarily engaged in distributing. According to trial testimony, even 3NG's small street-level dealers distributed crack daily in 3 and 6 gram quantities. Moreover, the sizable quantity of 122.5 grams which Rodney indisputably sold to Hatfield in just 2 transactions suggests that the volume represented by Rodney's overall drug network easily surpassed the relatively low 280-gram threshold necessary to support the jury's verdict. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that Hatfield set up Lil Man and have him sitting in prison serving a 30-year sentence. It goes to show you there's no one to trust in the streets. Even some of Rodney's friends who he grew up with and showed love to in the streets by making sure they had money to survive had turned against him in the end. The ones who didn't ended up getting life sentences for various crimes, including murder. Today, crews like 3NG, Melf Mafia, Cut Boys, Hot Boys are mostly all dead or serving long prison sentences, and the ones who did get to make it free are like Ghost. You rarely see them. So watch yourself in the streets. You don't know who's wearing a wire or setting you up for the feds. Could be your longtime homie, could be a family member, could be the woman you sleeping with. You just never know.